Hey guys, it's Levi again with Guerrilla Realty. We do these trainings every Thursday at 2 p.m. We go live. Feel free to join us live, ask questions. Of course, we'll always make the replays available in the group here. But, I'm more than happy to address questions and whatnot that you guys have of the program and kind of what we're talking about. And today, we're going to be wrapping up our series on what do I even say to these people. So this has actually been almost a month we've been talking about this particular thing, and it kind of originated from a case study that we released where we were able to actually generate leads from Zillow without spending a dime with them. So if you're interested, if you haven't heard that yet, and you want to learn about the Zillow hack, the Zillow strategy, comment below, and I'm more than happy to send you a link to some stuff we published on that. But the next question I got was, okay, you generated leads from, listings that you posted on Zillow. What do I say to those leads? And so this is kind of an answer, a long answer to that question. So we've talked about the real estate buying cycle. We've talked about different approaches to get people on the phone. And then we talked about what to say to the people. And like I said, I've done Facebook Live videos on all of those subjects. So if you can't find them in the group, again, post below. I'm more than happy to link you directly. But today we're going to be kind of wrapping it up by talking about, okay, we've made an initial contact. And if you listened last week, we talked about our approach being we wanted to set them up for the automated search through our MLS. Okay, so we're making that assumption that if we've gotten this far, we have them set up for the automated search. They like us, presumably. And so at this point, now it's just going to be a matter of sort of staying in touch with them on a regular basis. And so when I say staying in touch, I don't mean nagging. I don't mean, hey, how's it going out there? We're going to have some very specific goals in mind when it comes to follow-up. The first thing you need to understand, though, is that most online leads are 3 to 6 months out from closing. Now, that might be counter to what you have heard. I know some of the gurus and coaches out there will oftentimes say, oh, they're a year or two away from doing anything. And sometimes even when you talk to the customers, they'll tell you that. But you can pretty much assume that they're going to be 3 to 6 months out from closing. And so what that means in terms of follow-up is that you need about 2 touches per week. Okay, so 2 touches per week means 1 email, which will likely come from your automated MLS, follow-up. So you don't have to worry about that so much. And then you can also do a phone call as well. So about 1 phone call a week is what you're going to have to worry about after you get them set up for the automated search. So what do we say to these customers? Well, first, there's 2 things that you want to keep in mind. The first thing is you always want to provide a reason why why you're calling. Again, you don't want to do the thing where you just call, hey, just checking in, how's it going? That's not the direction you want to go. So you want to have a reason. The second thing that you want to keep in mind as you make these follow-up phone calls is you want to keep them short and sweet. You don't want to make it a thing where they're going to assume that it's going to be 20 minutes on the phone with you every time you call. Because even if they're sort of making it long, you get in touch with a chatty Cathy, and they're calling for 20 minutes, and they're chatting, and you can't even get them off the phone. That's the expectation that they're going to have, and typically we're going to be following up with these customers for anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks. So you don't want to set that tone early on that it's going to be a 20-minute conversation. I typically try to keep them around 5 to 10 minutes. I get in there, make them like me again, establish a rapport, and then I get out. So really quickly, and I'll tell you why this works, why the information, again, we want to be a source of information. You can imagine, we talked about it last week, but the analogy of going in and buying a suit. If you go in and buy a suit, and the salesman comes up to you and they say, hey, can I help you with anything? And you, of course, say, no thanks, I'm just looking. You're in phase 1 of the buying cycle. And then they come up to you every 2 or 3 minutes and they say, hey, you ready to get one yet? You're going to get annoyed. On the other hand, what if every time they came up, they said, hey, we have this sales rack over here. I don't know if you knew about it. It's last year's fashions, but they're pretty much the same. It's a suit. So why don't you check it out? They're half price over here. Or maybe the next time they come up and they say, hey, I don't know if you know this, but our Black Friday sale is coming up. And if you purchase anything today, you can actually come back in on Black Friday and get a price adjustment. If they came up to you every 2 to 3 minutes and had some great piece of information like that, not only would you not be annoyed by it, but you would appreciate that salesperson coming up to you. And so we want to establish the same kind of rapport with the customer. We want to always come up to them with information. So this is by no means something that's set in stone. Hey, you have to do it in this particular order. But these are sort of just some ideas for different information, different reasons why you just had to call. Okay? And one thing you'll notice about these as I kind of go through these ideas is that most of them could have been done without a phone call. In other words, I could email them a link to my blog. But by using that as an excuse of why I just had to call them, it gives me the opportunity to reestablish the relationship, which is really what I'm after here. Okay, so I have them set up for the automated search. That was my first call. About a week after that, I'm going to call them back and I'm going to say, hey, this is Levi with Guerrilla Realty. We talked last week. It's good to hear from you again. I just wanted to give you a quick follow-up call to make sure you're getting all those emails that have been going out. And again, 99% of the time they're going to go, yeah, sure, I've been getting them. And if they haven't, of course, that's easy dialogue at that point. You just help them fix the problem. Have you checked your spam folder and things like that? But again, we're going to say, hey, and that's the end of the first phone call. If they say, yeah, I've been getting them, I'll say, well, great. If you have any questions or if you need anything, feel free to give me a call. And then I hang up the phone. Okay, so it's very quick, very short, and I try to approach them with something useful. In other words, a quick follow-up to make sure they're getting the emails. Now, the second week is when I really get into the information piece of it, because at this point, they've had a couple of weeks to actually look through the different automated searches that have been done for them, and they probably have a clearer picture of what they want in a property. And so I'll approach them and I'll say, hey, I know you've been getting these homes for a couple of weeks now, and I just want to make sure we're not wasting any time for you. Are we even in the ballpark of what you're looking for? Do we need to make any changes or adjustments to the search here? And, they'll go ahead and, they'll oftentimes have ideas at this point because they have a clearer picture of what they want. So, with these, they'll come back and say, well, we've been getting a lot of homes or a lot of results in this one neighborhood, and we don't want to get those anymore. And I'll say, hey, no problem. I'll go ahead and make the adjustment on your search for you. Let us know if you have any other questions. And again, I get off the phone quickly. The next week, I call them up and say, hey, I made that adjustment for you. Did he get you closer to what you wanted? And again, a lot of times they'll appreciate it. They'll say, "Oh, thanks for calling back. Actually, that helped, but we actually found something else. We really need a bonus room. We hadn't thought about that before, but the more we see houses that are out there, I think we need a bonus room. Can we adjust that in the search?" And again, sometimes you have to prompt these, but oftentimes I'll go 3 or 4 weeks just going back and forth on making small adjustments to the automated search, getting back, and in the meantime, I'm developing a real relationship with them, and I'm really figuring out their needs and what they want. So when they do move into phase 2 of the buying cycle, where they're actually looking for a property, I'm going to have a really clear picture of what they want, rather than just sort of notions based on one conversation that I have with them and trying to put together a showing list on that. Okay. Now sometimes they'll stonewall me. Instead of being really helpful and having adjustments that they want to make with the automated search, sometimes they'll say, yeah, everything's good. I don't need any changes. And I'll say, okay, well, great. Just wanted to check in. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll get off the phone. The next week, instead of sort of doing the back and forth thing on the small changes, this time I'll take a little bit different approach. Again, I always want to bring information to the table. So I mentioned a minute ago a blog. And specifically, rather than just saying, hey, can I share my blog with you? Specifically, I'll try to find a blog post that really fits their situation. So I might say, hey, I ran across this great blog post on how to avoid predatory lending. Do you mind if I email you a link to it? It's actually on my blog. Can I send it to you? Now, I could have just emailed it to them, but again, the point was not to get them that great blog post, however great it may have been, but the point was to use that as a reason why I just had to connect with them, okay? So again, that's one idea. Another idea is, hey, I like to connect with everybody on Facebook. Is it okay if I send you a friend request? Or can I send you a link to like my business page? Either of those approaches are great, and it knocks out two birds with one stone. Not only are you furthering your relationship with the customer, but 99% of the time, they're going to say, sure, send me a link. And you can build a following on social media, which of course can lead to leads and activity down the road. So again, this is just giving you a taste, but this is the type of approach that I always call with some sort of information. At some point along the line, I'll broach the financing piece. So I might say, hey, I don't know if you've even thought about it this far, but have you gotten pre-qualified for a loan yet? Again, most of the time the answer at this early stage of the process is no. And so I'll say, hey, well, I actually know this lender across town. They have a great website. You can actually get pre-qualified on their website. Do you mind if I email you a link? And not only is this setting up future contact with you really well, but if you're tag teaming it with a mortgage broker, of course that's a way to share advertising costs. We could go into that in another video. So at any rate, at some point along the line, as you build trust with this customer and as they move along in the buying cycle, a lot of times the relationship just sort of happens naturally. I've had it happen to myself where I'll be following up and they'll ask specific questions about maybe some of the homes that they've gotten in their automated search. And then next thing you know, I call them up and they say, hey, can you actually show me this listing over here? And it's really as easy as that. I don't have to do any hard sales. Again, it doesn't always work like that, but a lot of times, because you're letting the relationship develop naturally and you're relying on the statistics that say that 74% of home buyers and 76% of sellers go with the first agent who they come in contact with, I'm relying on that. The relationship oftentimes does progress naturally. Now, sometimes it doesn't, and this is where we'll use a little trick. And the trick that we use is I'll go out and I'll find the nicest house in their search criteria. And I'll say, hey, I was thinking about you today. I ran across what may be the perfect house. It meets this checklist, and I'll name some of the things that they've mentioned. Anyways, here, check it out online. Here's the MLS number. If you want to go look at the inside, let me know and I'll make the arrangements. And sometimes that just shifts their thinking a little bit. They went from, hey, this guy's a good source of information, to, oh, he can also help me with this side of the transaction, this real estate side. Again, I don't usually lead off with that, usually after a few weeks, after I've built some rapport with them. But oftentimes that's a good sort of transition point with these customers as you kind of sense them moving into phase 2, but before they've connected with another agent, of course. So again, that's kind of, it doesn't get more complicated than that. Again, we get lots of opportunities. We want lots of opportunities with leads because at the end of the day, this is a numbers game. We use good strategies to get a hold of them on the phone. When we get them on the phone, we don't oversell them. We take a customer service approach. And then when it comes to follow-up, we're a good information source, and we want to be in it. We want to be consistent, and we want to be in it for the long term. So that's what I got in terms of this. What do I say to these people? Hopefully you've found it valuable. If you have questions, again, feel free to join us on these live sessions. You can actually ask questions while I'm talking. That's certainly not a problem. I'm more than happy to tackle them here. Or if you want to ask them in the comments below. And if there's any specific topics that you want me to tackle next, I'm more than happy to do it. I have some ideas for the next few videos, but I'm more than happy to address, if there's something specific you guys want me to tackle. So appreciate it, guys, and join us every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks a lot.